Do we know anybody from South Philly that's like big?
Rocky Balboa.
Boom. That was a rhetorical question, by the way.
Welcome to the Daru Strong Podcast. Daru Strong Podcast.
Carmen del Mastro is in the building. Nooch does some videos on the YouTube, man. Thank you so much for joining me today,
Of course,
my brother.
Man. Thanks for having me.
We did a live on my Instagram and YouTube as well. But let's get back to the origin story first, right? I always like to go through the story because then we get to know who that individual is and then see what you're doing now. If you haven't followed him on Instagram, check him out, man. The guy has so much when it comes down to dynamic movements and power, and he's probably one of the best movers I've seen on Instagram. I'll say that. I could say that.
Saw me move yesterday in person.
It was good. It was smooth. It was smooth. I had to catch up a little bit. So let's start off. Like, how'd you begin, man? Like, what, Philly and then going to Chicago.
So long time ago. I'm 35 now. My father was a fighter. It always goes back to him, no matter what I talk about. If I get emotional talking about some of these things, it's just how I am.
Yeah.
A lot of these things are like near and dear to my heart, and it's just who I am. It's how I was raised and whatnot.
Sure.
But I was lucky enough to have the facility in my basement growing up, and it was never like a weird dynamic with my dad where it was like, you have to train, just get down there. Like, but if you were training, my dad was a professional fighter. Like, if you were training, you're training.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
no excuses. You know,
We got along really well, man. That's it.
So, I mean, we were lucky enough to have the gym in the basement, and me and my brother would go down there. My brother was not the training type. Didn't like the environment. I kind of just stuck it out. I was like, all right, this is for me. I'm down here. Threw the mitts on at a young age.
What was it like in the beginning, like when you were young, just like you had to go down to the basement and just hit the bag for like hours on end?
A lot of jabs. You're only going to jab.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
You stay with the jab for at least a couple months before you can go into it.
It's like he's orthodox. I'm a southpaw.
Nice.
So he's just like, you're like splitting image of me, but in left-handed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a great way to learn, just to get an athletic-based fighting at a very young age. And then basically was a baseball guy growing up, soccer guy, football, everything, played everything. Probably should have went the soccer route, if I'm being honest, just a little bit more for my skill set. Would have been able to show off a little bit more of what I'm capable of doing. I feel like as a baseball guy, you're limited to a little bit from an athletic standpoint.
I can see that. Yep.
I mean, you look at center fielders, shortstops, second baseman, they're your athletic positions. I was a middle infielder, played both, tried to throw me in the outfield every once in a while, but I just didn't have the arm strength to play out there.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, what would be like one of the prime benefits of being an outfielder, you know?
I mean, just running, basically. Yeah. I mean, it didn't really showcase, like, I couldn't throw anybody out at home plate. Gotcha. I just didn't have the arm strength. So I played shortstop for a long time, and then once
That's because of lateral movement, like you're able to move in like agility, change direction. Gotcha.
Once I got to the Division I level at Temple University, they moved me to second base, and I felt way more comfortable there.
Why is that?
Footing wise, you know, being able to make an easier throw. I was always good at flipping my hips, so turning double plays from that position. I just felt like a lot more comfortable, like confidence wise, being able to, you know, go into the second to short hole and being able to backhand the ball and throw somebody out with my body falling away, as opposed to going the other direction or like third base in between that. I wasn't making that throw.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, just I feel like I could have done a lot more with the soccer.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I love
that.
Playing
makes
soccer.
sense though. Watching you now, like in your videos and things like that, I could see definitely soccer. I thought you were a soccer player, honestly.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
I was trying to figure out like, what does he do? And I go,
what does he do?
I saw baseball. I was like, fucking baseball? For real? Like,
but it was like I was always hurt though, man. That's the thing. Like my pops was very old school in his training methods. So it's like the old no pain, no gain.
He's from Philly.
Yeah.
He boxed. Definitely gonna be old school, man.
And it wasn't bad. He was the type of guy that would like throw a 50-pound vest on you, ankle weights, wrist weights, and
would you running up the library? Were you running
everywhere, bro?
Yeah. The museum?
The art museum?
The art museum?
Not there, but there was plenty of steep hills as a youngster.
Nice.
But and then he would throw the parachute on you too, with the vest and everything.
That's just and then ankle weights on top of that.
Everything.
Might as well, right?
Yeah, all the weight.
So, all right. So now baseball. Did you play basketball at all? No.
A little bit. More schoolyard.
Gotcha.
Basketball guy.
What do you think developed your athletic ability? And obviously, genetics do play a role in that, but like, what sport do you feel like carried over the most for what you do now?
Boxing.
Yeah?
The footwork.
Nice.
Hand-eye coordination.
I like it.
Yeah. Carol wouldn't really let me go too deep into the boxing. That's my mom, by the way. I always hit her with the Carol. Love you, Carol. So, but yeah, she would always be like, "You're not boxing. You're not getting hit in the head." It was a great decision.
Smart woman.
But I mean, I always wanted to really dive deeper into it, but it was just limited.
Gotcha.
Got to make mom happy.
So in high school, were you training? You know, you start training, start doing strength and conditioning, all that.
Yeah, it was the basement workouts.
Yep.
That's when they really started.
For real.
Yeah.
I know how that goes, man.
Yeah.
What was one of your first like major exercises that you did that you thought was like the best?
The sleds. My dad is huge into the sled pushes.
Dope.
Yeah, and it was just like wherever we can, wherever we can add more weight, and he was always just had me running and not like distance, but sprints constantly. Just like I was born fast, and there's no better. That's not an excuse to not continue to get faster.
Yeah,
a lot of people use that as an excuse. Well, I'm fast, I don't need to run, I'll just do it.
The booby miles.
Yeah, exactly.
This podcast is brought to you by Vivo Barefoot. Now check out vivobarefoot.com. That's the minimalistic shoe that I've been rocking on all my videos. If you've been watching my Instagram and YouTube, those are the shoes that I've been wearing to help my foot gain full foot functionality, strengthen up the intrinsic muscles of the feet to allow myself to perform better, and then also reduce the risk of injury. Now I personally like the Geo Racer Knit and the Primus Light 3. Check them out. Go to vivobarefoot.com and get the discount code DARU15 to get 15% off your final purchase. All right, now let's get on to the podcast.
I don't need to do anything else.
All I gotta do is show up.
Yeah, I don't need to do anything else. But no, he was on me. But it wasn't like a bad way. Like I said, it wasn't a bad way. It was just like he always says. He was like, you wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just kept going with it as long as we can. I always sit back and think like, for my build and how, you know, people don't really get out of the city that much. So you look back and you're just like, where I'm from, it's not a bad place, but like people don't chase a lot of what they should chase. That's how I feel. I feel like more people from Philly should actually go for more things that they're gifted at or they have talent at. It's just like they stay in that, what they're comfortable with. Like the strength in numbers thing being in Philly, people love that.
What part of Philly are you from?
South Philly.
And do we know anybody from South Philly that's like big?
Rocky Balboa.
Boom. That was a rhetorical question, by the way. Just saying.
But he's not real.
I mean, he can be.
Yeah,
he's real in our hearts.
There's a lot of Rockies in South Philly.
There's a lot. Everybody thinks he's real. Let's just put it like that. Yeah. Okay. Cheesesteaks.
Yes.
Cheesesteaks. What's the best cheesesteak you can get in Philly?
There's Ishkabibbles.
Okay, never heard of them.
It's a name. It's definitely a name.
Didn't know that.
Ishkabibbles.
Okay.
There's, Pats and Geno's are classics. It's
which
more
one, Pats or Geno's though?
I'm with Geno's guy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because I know some people. Shout out to Geno's.
Got it,
But
so I'll go there.
if Philly gets the bad rap, it's just like a cheesesteak city. There's such good food there. There's great Italian food. There's Indian food. They have one of the best Indian restaurants in the country there.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So
that was not known.
Yeah.
All I know is the cheesesteaks.
Yeah, go get some good food, man.
I'm gonna come out there, man.
Well,
but you're in Chicago now.
I'm in Chicago, though.
So, all right. So now, what made you transition? I know we skipped a lot, but like, so high school, you played college.
Yeah, that college, I was always hurt. The best part of my athletic career was, there was a moment from summer ball into my senior year of college where it was just like tunnel vision, man. I was like, no bullshit, one of the best players in the country. Had that feeling like tunnel vision. It was just right there. Like, I don't care what you're throwing. I don't care what's happening on the field. The game was slow. And that's an awesome feeling. And it's like the same thing. I'm sure you can relate to it when you're in the octagon or you're sparring with someone and everything you see is just moving slowly. It's really cool to experience that.
You're focused, you're in a flow state.
Yeah, you're tracking pitches, everything is just dialed in. And that went by so fast because I was hurt most of my college career, and then it kind of bled into what I was trying to do as a pro. Fouled the ball off my ankle, ended up getting a Jones fracture in my foot too, so I played half my senior season with that. So at the time I was leading the country in batting average. I think I struck out maybe 3 times my senior year. So I was like one of the hardest people in the country to strike out.
Gotcha.
And just couldn't do anything with it from there. Like I was on one foot for about half the season. And then I tried the pro thing, and then it just was a disaster from there. It's a sensitive subject with me too. Like pro tryouts. I rested like 2 years trying to heal my foot, and then I broke it again with a workout.
It's the minors, AAA?
Yeah, well, just like a regular tryout. I mean, God knows where they would have sent me. Like either like single A, double A, doesn't matter. At the time, they just, who knows where they would have sent me. And then it was just like, it was always something. Just could never stay healthy. And I was like, I should probably do something else.
Yeah. At that time, were you like, all right, I need to I have to make a decision?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to transition into just being a coach or?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's an interesting story because I don't know if my brother was just joking with me at the time. I came back from California. I was playing in a California Winter League in Palm Springs. And I played really well out there. I thought I did enough to get signed by somebody. And at the time, they just were like, you're too old. And I was 26. And that's, if you know anything about like baseball or pro sports world, granted, it's old, right? I mean, if there's not money invested in you at a young age, they're not going to give a shit about you at 26, unless you're doing something spectacular, like you're throwing 100 miles an hour or something, like the ball's just jumping off your bat.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
man.
but my brother goes, you know what you should do? You should just go be a strength coach. You're always working out anyway. And I don't know if he was joking or whatnot, but I literally walked around the corner, saw how the process worked, and that's the story of me becoming a strength coach.
What gym was that?
It was Sweat Fitness.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I look like a Sweat Fitness guy, right?
Amazing. That's, it's almost funny because I started in Snap Fitness.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
At a Snap Fitness because I got locked up and they didn't let me out anywhere else. So I was Snap Fitness. I actually became the PT director.
Nice.
Yeah, didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
I just did it. I was like 20 years old, 21 years old.
Just selling programs to people.
That's
You had
it.
the sheet out and you're circling. Listen, this is what we're going to do. Here, and
package
here,
one,
right?
You get 12 sessions, 10 sessions. This is the best deal that you can get here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I understand it.
Let me go talk to my manager. I'll be right back.
There was no manager, by the way.
It was you. No, you just go in the back room.
Absolutely, I'll come back. I got it.
Yeah.
We got it all set. So you're gonna buy the best one right here, and then I take the commission. So all right. So listen.
We let a lot out of the bag with that. Sorry about that. The big box gyms. Sorry.
We're good, man. Now you know. Now you know. So just come to us, and we can train you for real.
We got you.
So when that happened, were you like, all right, I need to get certifications. I need to get more education.
I went and got like the most Joe Blow cert, like the AAAI, as quick as we could.
Yeah.
So I had that for a while. And then I went into, there was another facility called City Fitness, and they had an MBSC Thrive. And I had no idea what MBSC stood for, so it was Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning.
Gotcha.
And they did the whole like outfit, like you're gonna go through the regiment, like 2-week program, learn all the Boyle stuff, and basically, lo and behold, Mike Boyle is somebody in our industry, apparently. And basically got a free education on that. I spent maybe 2 or 3 years in that world, and that was another thing where I started to do kind of like my own thinking, and where you start to develop a little bit of creativity where you're kind of like limited. Love the Boyle method, lay the foundation for a lot of what I do now between that and what I learned from my pops. But yeah, it's just like, how can I take this and make it more creative, take these exercises and make them my own type deal. So that was like when the wheels really started to go.
When how old were you then?
26.
Okay.
Sorry.
So that's similar to me.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. So now you're head first into coaching.
Yeah.
Who was your first clients that you've had?
Gen Pops, baby.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be like, well, I was a big athlete, or I thought I was, and I'm just going to have all these pro guys just come knocking on my door, and they didn't. It was like Karen and Betty and all these soccer moms down the street.
But how did that help you with like your way of training now? Because I know that's a big thing where you have to develop a base, just like you were in training. You have to develop a coaching base.
Well, it's communication, right? And I think I have a degree in journalism, and I'm always like, well, I never did anything with my degree. But when I look back at it, it's like, you did a lot with your degree, like all that communicating. You would have to go on the street and literally interview people.
It's funny how that works,
right? And you don't even think about it at the time. Or you're just like, I wasted this money and a scholarship for no reason. But I'm really using it a lot because I know how to communicate with literally every type of person that walks in the gym.
Talk about that a little bit, because that's a huge thing, man. Like, I think when I see a lot of these young coaches, they come in and they're coming from like, the academic world. They don't have that ability to communicate well. Yeah. And that's a big thing to have, because if you can't relay over information, you can't talk to individuals, you can't get a bond going or like buy-in in general, you're not going to be able to have sustainability, right?
Right. I mean, I think we live in a different world now where everyone's just so bogged down with social media. So our communication skills are already screwed to begin with, like the younger generation. But being able to actually, you know, have a rapport with someone that's maybe 30 years older than you, or just like have a normal conversation with them about their day is like, it's so important. And, you know, the way I always thought about it was like this person, doesn't matter who they are or where they're from, like they can be going through the most in their day, like seeing you coming into the gym, you have to make it the best hour they've had all week. If they only train with you 1 time a week, if it's 2 times a week, you have to be the best hour of their day, no matter what. And it's just like goes a long way to show if you can do that and build that rapport, it lasts a lifetime.
So now with all of that, you develop these skills. How long did it take you to actually get your first athlete?
When did I get my first athlete? I think I didn't, well, we had some sprinkled in there. They weren't like the high level athletes. It was more like high school and college athletes. I didn't have my first pro athlete, literally, I don't think until I moved to Chicago. I had guys who were like right on the cusp of like workouts, this, that, and the other thing. Or it was like guys that just didn't trust me yet, if that makes any sense, because I just didn't have the rapport of working with other people yet. You know, this is when I was still trying to grow the Instagram, grow who I was. I had a soccer guy who actually went against the grain of training at the college I ended up getting hired at, and was working with me off of like a double ACL. And that was a really cool experience where he's like, oh, I've been watching you on Instagram, we're gonna go now. He's like, comes to me, and he's like 26 years old, still in college. He's a trainer now. Super cool dude, super cool experience, like rehabbing this kid. And I'm just like, am I stepping on people's toes? Like I got contracted by the university to do the Gen Pop, and it was like a really cool experience for me. Like I had a friend who worked there, and super grateful for offering me the opportunity to work at a university where they had like a rec center, but also they said, all right, here are these rooms, do whatever you want. So they were like private training rooms, and they literally let me like develop like the whole programming, my own programming, whatever I wanted. And it was like the coolest experience, because that was like the first time I was on my own in a space, and it was cool.
So now you're developing this system, right, that you do now, and like, how did you start to like really get traction with your Instagram, with all your social media stuff? Because you've been posting for a lot, and you post a lot too as well, and it's consistent. And this is why you've been able to build that social media following, which has helped you in your business, correct?
Oh, for sure. I think it was like taking non-traditional, I don't want to say I was like one of the OGs of doing like a lot of advanced plyometric movements, but I was one of the OGs of doing a lot of advanced plyometric movements.
Humble brag.
I mean,
you know.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't a lot of people using bands, like doing, like I didn't see, like I would always, Instagram was different, right? The algorithm was different. Like what we saw was very different back then. And it was like, what aren't people doing? And it might have not been a lot of good stuff I was posting. Like I would go back now and be like, I would never do that now. But it was like, how can I get people's attention and do it in somewhat of a smart way? I had to figure out a way. So I was like, bands, jumping, how am I athletic? And just showcase that as much as possible. So if people think that I'm doing this, I can get them to do that also. So that was my way of kind of like stepping out of the box and doing that.
Gotcha. When did you start to see like, oh, I should keep doing this and this is working for me?
I think I had a post that like hit over that 100,000 mark, where that was like a big thing. And then the following went from like 5,000 to 10,000 instantly. And I'm just like, okay, now there's power in this.
For sure.
Because before it was just like 100,000, nothing really happened. It was just like one post. And I think it was a band resisted in place run where I put the bands around my feet too. So stupid. And, like I love the in place band resisted runs for like aerobic capacity at a certain point, but like there's no point to put the band around my feet. I don't even know if I might have archived it. I'm like, I'm gonna get rid of this. But that one video kind of blew me up. And then I did another video where it was plank med ball toss. So I was in a plank position and I had the med ball and I switched it constantly to my other hand as I was switching hands. And then that got reposted, reshared. People were stealing it, just like taking credit for it. And I was like, The social media thing is wild.
Yeah.
That's when like people really started reaching out and wanting to work with me. It was cool.
Yeah, so who was the ones that actually reached out for you?
So it was a lot of soccer.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that though?
I think it's just like, if you see how they train, like we talked a lot about this already, it's just like, you can tell they like to not touch weights sometimes. And movement is like what they do. Like, I think a lot of what I show was like, they all think they can transfer to the soccer field. And that's what kind of was drawn to like myself and to the soccer players. But I mean, am I going to have some of these guys doing some crazy advanced plyometrics? Not really. But I mean, I'm going to go along with it.
We talked about lateral movement, right? Lateral force displacement. They don't do a lot of that, right?
No.
Or they stay away from it? Why is that?
So it's funny, like you'll get a lot of soccer players, they have a lot of hip issues.
Okay.
Hips, adductors, hip flexors, just because they stay in like such a like same plane all the time. And like they take these little steps. Like with the ball, a lot of soccer players are great movers with the ball. Without the ball, they're not the greatest movers. And that's no shade at anyone I've worked with or anything. It's just like, it's a fact. Like you put the ball at their feet, and they're great. Without the ball, it's kind of awkward, right? It's almost like you get the type of like gator arms and like the very tiny tap dancing steps. And that's the one thing I like strive to get the soccer world out of. It's just like speed ladders, Bosu balls, like putting more force into the ground, not taking it away from the ground, right? So I mean, it's really cool to see a soccer player being able to do like a curve run into an acceleration and try to chase someone down the field.
They need that.
Yeah, I mean, just being able to put that into a program, like they don't necessarily understand why they're doing it, but it's a switch. And I always relay it back to, man, we have to be the best in the 5 to 10 yards of acceleration. And once we can develop that, and once we have that into our program and understand that, you're going to be the best athlete on the field.
What are you seeing that a lot of strength coaches and sport coaches are doing wrong with soccer practice and soccer training in general?
It's just not the non-belief in strength training. And I know it's a lot in the international game where it's not a lot of strength training. And then you see some guys who are super jacked and they think like that's genetics. I mean, to a certain degree, it could be, but also they train. Like you can tell they train. And again, like I said, it's the speed ladders, the Bosu balls, the constant just like jumping over things for no reason while you're just like have the ball at your feet. I'm like, there's not landmines on the. I know people are slide tackling you, but like you play on a stable surface. It's not like the third Batman where the field's blowing up behind. Like that's when you might need it. But
bang games.
I mean, it's just like so watered down, and I'm sure if you scroll through the search page on Instagram, you'll see a lot of really bad training.
There's a couple that I do see with soccer that I was like, I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm not a soccer guy, so I can't speculate. But what I can say is that I do know movement, right? And I know how to get an athlete better. There's certain things that you cannot do or certain things you should not do in order for them to actually progress in the sport. There is sport specifics though, however. Is there anything that you do from a specificity standpoint that can correlate over to soccer training, just in that perspective? There's
a couple. Actually, I like to train all my players to like be bullies, if that makes sense. So it's a contact sport. Like the women's game, like I have more experience in the women's game than the men's game. The women are way more aggressive than the men. Men flop a lot.
Really?
Yeah, it's like my biggest pet peeve. I'm just like, why are we falling to the ground so much? I know they're trying to get calls.
The NBA took that from them too as well.
So I'm just like, why are we falling so much? But the women's game is actually physical, and I enjoy watching the women's game a little bit more than the men's game because of that. And I think some of the methods I've instilled in like my programming, where I will actually get in and do some of the movements where I'll like lean on the athlete, have them do a little bit of it's almost like a sled push or like pull, where I'll lean up against them, because a lot of the time you're playing 1v1 against somebody trying to win the ball, right? And a lot of time there's just like body on body, hip on hip, shoulder on shoulder. So a lot of me being like hip and shoulder, like manual resisted movements, I will do a lot of that.
Gotcha.
And there's a bunch of different exercises we can do to do that. I mean, I'll use the Kaiser, where we kind of have those, I think they're the 90, 45 degree handles, where I'll hold them and I'll turn the Kaiser up as high as we can. They'll lean, they'll pull the Kaiser, and I'll be on their shoulder pushing against them, because at the end of the day, like, the ball's at their feet and they have to win that 1v1. So there's resistance from both ends, right? And I'm just sitting on their opposite side, laying into them. That's one of my favorite exercises. I think I came up with them.
I like that. I like that. When you're looking at producing power and creating power, let's put it like that, what is your, like, prime focus in the beginning, and then what's the progressions from there?
Yeah, I think it's to always move with intent, right? So if we train slow, our athletes are probably going to be slow. If we can move fast, then we're going to succeed a little bit better. My main exercises, I love to build reactive strength. I mean, we talked about it on the Instagram Live. It was, you never know how much time you're going to have with these athletes, especially with fighting, right? If you get called into a fight, you got a short period of time. So soccer off season too is pretty crazy, because it's almost like a 9 to 10 month season sometimes, and then you get vacations spliced in right after. You want these guys to rest. You want them to just, like, build some type of relaxation back up, where their bodies are healed, because it's a long season, man.
How long is the games? How many games?
It all depends on, it could be anywhere between like 30 to 40 games, I think some of them play. But like, you go into the postseason and they're still playing. It's all year. And then at some of the leagues, they add these, like, middle of the season tournaments in, and then you get, like, Olympic breaks for these guys going to play in the Olympics. And then World Cup. God knows if it's a time for the World Cup, you have those games lumped in. It's like, there's a lot.
It's a lot,
But you're basically looking at like 10 months of programming.
When you have, like, an off season, what's our prime focus? Like, obviously building general fitness and everything else.
Bigger, stronger, faster. I know it's like the oldest, like, model, but I mean, we're not going to get too much bigger, but we're trying to be as explosive and powerful as possible. Like, day one, when you're coming back in, I talked about it. We're trap bar, we're jumping, we're band resisted. We're doing anything possible to get some type of fast twitch muscle fiber back, and then we're going from there. I mean, the same thing, even when we're pressing band resisted bench presses, if we can get some accommodated resistance on there too, I love it. I mean, as much as we can kind of load up and move, I have some of the girls come in and they're just like, all right, we're lifting some fucking weight now. It's the best when you can actually have people buy into that, and it's like, it's cool to see.
They like that?
Yeah, it's like, I've never lifted this much weight since college, and they've been pro athletes for 5-6 years, and it's just like, well,
it's unfortunate.
We know what we're doing, right? It's unfortunate.
Super unfortunate. With upper body strength training, do you find that, like, it's almost neglected in a sense, right, with soccer?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, that's where you kind of run into the, I'm going to get big and bulky, and I'm not going to be able to move. Or it's just like, no, you're not. Like, if you're not taking any excess supplementation or illegal supplements, you'll be fine. You'll be okay.
What do you usually focus on with upper body training?
So it's funny, like, I do a sequence, like a contrast sequence, where I don't think a lot of people utilize depth drops in, like, a sense of, like, a push-up. So I'll load the boxes up higher and have them drop into that push-up position, because at the end of the day, we have to be able to absorb force with our upper body too. So my favorite sequence to add in is heavy push, whether it's bench press or dumbbells, and then we go to that accelerated band push-up, band drop, and then I love doing an accelerated med ball toss. If it's half kneeling, fall to the wall, accelerated push into the wall. That's probably one of my favorites.
You do a lot of contrast work too.
Yes, I do. A lot.
And it's almost like, it's like giant set type of work though. Why did you decide to really start doing that?
Bang for your buck. I just feel like we can get so much more accomplished, where it doesn't have to be, okay, there's 15 exercises in the program. I feel like 8 is like a perfect amount of exercises we can get accomplished. So
that makes sense.
We have like a block of 4, what we're trying to get done, even if it's not like high rep, high volume, high set, boom. That first sequence of contrast training is going to cook you regardless. So that's also a huge thing, getting athletes to understand, this is not fitness, this is not your sport, you're going to rest in between these sets. So especially with soccer, because it's go, 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 they love fitness. They love to be on the move, they love to go. So getting them to understand that we're trying to build muscle, we're trying to get you to where you need to be in order to understand the, the constant struggle there is through the season to keep your body healthy, you need to rest.
How are you relaying that over to them? Like, how are you telling them, okay, you need to rest. You need to make sure that you're taking your time in between your sets and not doing because I got my guys. I know how they go.
Well, it's funny. I'm like, yeah,
shadow boxing in between sets. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just like, all right. I would lump in some mobility drills too.
Okay.
So hip mobility, if there's any type. So that's a perfect way. Or I just tell them to go make a TikTok. So just, go in the corner. Go make TikTok.
That's amazing, by the way. How the life has transitioned into the TikTok world.
Yeah. Yeah, mobility is always a good break up in between those.
I like that. Yeah. Corrective exercise is something in there that's not going to tax them.
Lump it in.
So I wanted to get at, like, when you do these sequences, when you do these contrast sets, let's go over this. What's the daily routine, or let's say, what's the workout look like for you when you get a guy in or a girl in, whatever?
So my favorite thing to do is to assess them. If they're an athlete coming to me for the first time, I don't say I mess with them. I just like to see how you move.
Gotcha.
So some days I won't even let you touch a weight for a week or so, because I just want to be able to clean up some things before we even touch weight.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're a poor mover without the weight, why am I going to load you up with any type of weight and have that responsibility of you hurting yourself, right? I find it funny that not a lot of athletes still, no matter the level, know how to hinge properly, which is always interesting. Not knowing where to load their hips. But I will take them through a very easy linear sequence after I just kind of see if there's any like mobility things going on, the ankles, the hips type deal.
Gotcha.
And then very simple linear stuff, and then I will go into the lateral movement. And then the lateral movement kind of bleeds into, okay, can we flip our hips? And then it gets real. And then I'm able to see where. Then
we start seeing all the Kaiser shit going on.
And then it's like, okay, we can't flip our hips. Okay, we can't do this. We can't stick our foot in the ground. We can't transition back into an accelerated position from a hip flip and all these things. So it's always linear, lateral, and then the fun hip flip stuff at the end. You can tell a lot.
And you bring them back if they can't flip their hips. You bring them back into
And I always work that in throughout the program too. I will, if it's not like a 20-minute block, depending on how much time I have with them, 15, 20 minutes, whereas we spend a little bit of time just doing movement and just cleaning that stuff up. It's like the perfect amount of time where it's not like overkill. And I don't change the cueing a lot. I don't know how you are with cueing movement stuff, but for me, giving them the same cues.
If it works, it works.
Exactly. And then some people don't pick up on it, and I'm just like, what can I do? How can I relay this message better to them? But I've been lucky enough that it has worked, where we can pick the movements up and we're able to kind of build off of that. But it's the same cueing because I don't want them to go to like neuro overload. Right. So I'm thinking about 15 different things at once instead of just like this one cue that I'm giving you. So
what cues have worked for you?
Chest over the toes a little bit works a lot. So I will have a lot of soccer guys that'll dump their shoulder, getting them to understand that I'm trying to keep the center mass just like over their toes.
Why is that though?
I mean, they spend so much time. If you watch a soccer game, so this is what I did. We'll get back to that. So as an assistant, I would literally be on the sideline. I had a notebook, and for the days I was just like, I mean, if you're in pro sports, there's not much to do once practice starts. Like, unless you're rehabbing someone. So I had the notebook, and they would make fun of me because it literally just said notebook on it. And I would sit there, and I would pick like a position like outside back. So I'm watching the outside back for like 15, 20 minutes throughout like a 11v11 or like a short-sided game. So pens on the paper, and I'm doing this with them. And I'm following them with the pen on the paper. And the pen doesn't come off the paper the whole time until the whistle blows or they come off the field. And I'm looking at that, and then that's how I built out individual programs for movement patterns for specific athletes in soccer. Like looking at what they do constantly. And then the next day, boom, do it again. See how they match up day to day.
Wow.
That's free game for you guys.
That's it. Pro tip.
It was weird because they're just like looking at me like I'm Rain Man or something. Just
he's like
doing this
fucking guy's
awkward
crazy,
thing.
Bro.
Kneeling, just like staring at one person.
You should have got a, what's it called? The erector set.
Right?
You should have got one of them things.
But it was cool to see because then, I was fortunate enough to be, in a position where I was able to build these warm-ups and these like pre-practice movement patterns.
Gotcha.
Where shout out to Megan Young. Appreciate you for allowing me to be myself in a pro setting and build out these things. Really appreciate you for that, giving me that startup chance.
That's cool, man.
And they just said, here, be you. And you don't get that opportunity too much, especially with the career Megan has had. For her to trust me like that, it was really cool. So building these movement patterns out and seeing how the athletes are picking them up and how they're able to develop over a preseason, like a 2-month preseason, into the 8 months, into like a full-on championship run. It was really cool.
When you're assessing an athlete, right, what are the prime things you're looking at from like the ground up?
How they're striking the ground, if they're actually using their foot. I know that's like a huge debate on social media.
Do you get
now.
them out of the shoes?
Yeah, a lot. Like you're coming out of those shoes, and I just feel like we have to reboot from the ground up regardless. We're rolling the foot out a little bit. You're just in that hard boot, that soccer boot. It's hard, and there's not a lot of cushion in it. It's the spike. I mean, there's 2 different spikes they can use depending on the surface they're playing on. And I just feel like if it was me, my feet would be destroyed. But it's not a comfortable boot to be in, and being out of the shoes is perfect. So we do spend a lot of time rebuilding, regen, stuff on the feet and the ankles, and kind of working up that chain. And we talked about getting back into the calves and rolling out the calves and doing stuff like iso holds, pushing down into the foot, developing the midfoot, being able to actually, have stiffness in the ankles. I mean, it might sound crazy to them that we're talking about ankle stiffness, but you think about how they play a ball into them. The ankle kind of has to be locked, because if it's floppy, the ball is going to go flying type deal. So there's a lot of exercises where bear crawls are a great way to kind of lock that in for them. They won't even realize that you're putting a bear crawl into a program, so they can get ankle stiffness and actually drive the foot into the ground.
Gotcha.
Where I can knock out a couple birds with one stone there.
Yeah, for sure. So then, let's transition, because we talked a lot about soccer, but you've I mean, baseball, there's a bunch of golf now too, right?
I was talking about, I might just quit my job and become a professional golfer. Why not? You see this money these guys are getting thrown around from LIV. It's okay, well, I don't have to be that great.
What are some of the major things that you see with rotational sports? Because I'm obviously big into rotational sports.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you think would be the best fit for those athletes?
I mean, the general strength program. You look at a golf swing, it's vertical force. We don't think about it. We just think, rotation. Watch the end of the golf swing.
Okay.
How they end up. It's all vertical, right?
Yeah.
So add your rotational stuff in, do all the T-spine, the mobility work, but at the end of the day, lift heavy. It's gonna transition.
So golfers, get underneath the load, man.
Lift.
Get the barbell on you.
What is it? I think TPI does a good job with a lot of their guys. I think John Rahm, he just released some of his training, and he's bell squat, sumo deadlift,
That's dope.
trap bar deadlift. I'm like, look, this guy just won a major tournament.
Yeah, that's right.
And this guy is lifting. I mean, he's not super in shape or anything, but
he's strong though.
Yeah, that's all you need.
And it helps.
Yeah, and he has the range of motion to kind of roll through these movement patterns and hits it 320.
Yeah. Happy Gilmore.
Yeah. But being able to lump all that together and getting an understanding, that's another sport where it's just you're going to get big and bulky and you're not going to be able to perform the way you want to. Doing that's also the getting them out of that BOSU instability. It's just the two sports I'm really into right now. It's how can I change? Yeah, how can I change this? The way of the world is.
How can you change it?
Just constant. You being consistent, man.
Yeah.
Constantly just harping on it. I mean, I'll wear a couple bullets. I'm fine with that. I have no problem.
You're from Philly, bro.
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah, I have no problem wearing
And he's in Chicago now. You're fucking dodging all types of bullets over there.
I have no problem wearing those and fighting with people sometimes about this shit, but it is what it is.
What are some of the things that you've seen in the industry that you're I gotta change that, or it should be changed?
The fast feet don't eat thing. I think
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Explain a little bit more on that.
I mean, you look at how we generate power and we generate speed.
Yeah.
Cool. Our feet are not where we're really generating. That's the hips, right? It's extension.
Yeah.
We want to generate extension. We want to be able to drive, put force into the ground, not take it away. And a lot of that's like tap dancing, right? And there's like exercises where I'm just like, I don't have guys do a lot of like a lot of soccer players love the lateral hurdle run.
Yeah.
I just feel like, I mean, some people, if you love it, it's great from like a neuro perspective. If we're trying to, you know, develop a very basic standard of, you know, body awareness, but at the end of the day, I feel like that exercise, you're literally just pulling your knees up to your chest and just running through things. I mean, it's the old football mentality too.
Yeah.
We have to run over things in
Yeah.
order for us to get faster.
Yeah.
And even those guys, I mean, you look, if they have a good strength program, those guys are just getting bigger, stronger, faster.
Sure.
And it's not from
It's not
doing,
from the ladder.
no, it's
Yeah,
not
no,
like
for sure.
lateral hurdle runs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That stuff that'll never go anywhere, because that's just like the old school mentality of, okay, I just need to.
Because the focus is more on hip flexion as opposed to extension.
Right.
Gotcha.
But like, get these guys, develop your posterior chain, be able to extend glutes, hamstrings, build it there, and and actually sprint.
Yeah.
I've had so many people come to me and be like, I need to get faster. Okay, so this is your sprint day, this is your movement day. Well, I'm not running. Fuck you mean you're not running?
Yeah.
You have to run to get faster.
Wow. Why do people say that though? Like, why do you think?
I mean, some people have had bad experiences with other strength coaches. I just feel like it's just like, it's not, I don't want to say it's an entitlement thing. I just feel like there's a know-it-all. Well, it's kind of like the same thing, but I feel like we have their best interest at heart. And it's, again, it's like building a rapport with people.
Yeah.
You have to get them to understand this, but also it's like, I'm not running. And you're in a sport where you need to run to get faster.
Sure. Is there other ways to get faster?
If there are, I would like to know. I mean, I haven't seen it. Like, you have to do these things in order to get the result you want. I mean, I might, maybe there is. If you know them, please let me know.
Well, I just think about it like, because I'm a strength guy, but at the same time, and don't get me wrong, like I work with combat sport athletes for the most part, you know, tactical.
Right.
We're not really straight line runners, so I don't really work a lot with that. But what I will say is that, you know, even working with some high school football guys, college football guys, some of the NBA guys too, it's like we do a lot of sleds, we do a lot of prowlers. I've seen that happen. I've seen it work. I don't know like direct correlation, but I'm not testing for that.
Right.
I'm really looking at, all right, how well is this going to transfer?
Right.
Is there anything there from that perspective that you would see loading maybe linear runs that can cause some type of speed increases?
Yeah, but at the same time, you're looking at it like, okay, I'm going to load you on a run. You don't even want to run without a load.
Sure.
So it's like, this is going to be way more miserable for you and like way taxing for you. And it's like the soccer world too. It's like, it's all distance dominated. So it's like, you think about the amount of tension and the amount of time is spent just like on your tissue and like through a practice where you're going from a warm-up to a passing to a technical to like a 11v11 and maybe you're wrinkling in a lot of other start stop constantly. And then we have some coaches want to do sprint work at the end of a session and not at the beginning of a session. I always feel like your sprint work should be done in the beginning of a session, no matter.
It becomes conditioning.
Exactly. Right? And you think about the amount of tension you're putting on that tissue and the exertion you're putting on that. So like, it's a recipe for disaster, and that's like a very older model in the soccer world too. We're going to run after practice.
Is that a conditioning thing? Is that more so
but at
because
the
of
end of the day, it's just like, do it in the beginning of practice. Right? When they're fresh. Like, if we're trying to get people faster,
of course, that
do it
makes
in
sense.
the beginning.
But that's how you should do it.
Exactly.
Right? Speed, power, strength, hypertrophy, conditioning, right?
And that's just like breaking the stigma of like, it is the sport, it is what it is. And I'm not that person. I can't do that. Like, I'm not an it is what it is coach. Right? I'm always trying to find a solution. How can I get this person better?
I like that.
What can I do to get this person to where they want to be? Like, if I'm in a room full of 25 athletes, I want to make them the best at what they do in their position and get them to be the best at their ability in the whole league, right? Not just on the team. I want 25 people on that team to be the best person at their position in the league, not even the ones that aren't playing every day. So that we next person up. Right. So if somebody gets hurt, boom, next person's in. We can take that and we're fine with them.
Gotcha. Let's circle back to the content, right? Because we got a lot of coaches here, and I know they want to build up their Instagram, build up their social media. How did you start to like really develop your social media following?
I think, like I said, it was like 1 or 2 videos where it popped.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, that's not the coach I am. I don't want to be the guy just doing things, because there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of fluff.
That's one thing that I will say. I never looked at your content and was like, he's just doing that shit for likes and views.
Yeah.
Like, I always saw, I was like, I see what you're trying to do there.
Yeah.
I see what you're trying to do there. So
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's weird because we'll always have people that will
do that shit.
Yeah, just
no,
like,
for sure.
It's just so much eyewash and so much fluff,
Yeah.
and then it's just like, how can I make it to a point where it's not something we're doing every day, but you know, it's beneficial.
Sure.
I don't want to just post something for the sake of posting it. Like that's how I started to get the following, and then I was like, this is not who I am. I can't be this guy.
Yeah.
I'm a smart kid. I want to, you know, push this out to people and have people actually work with me and just not be like, oh, that's Nucci's just an Instagram trainer.
Yeah.
I never want to be considered that.
Yeah.
So that's when I kind of transitioned more into, okay, here's what I actually do. This is why we're doing it, and you know, there's always a what and a why.
Yeah, no, that was one thing that I've always saw with you, was that like I've always seen like how it can progress, and then how you can regress it, and then where it can fit and transfer over into the sport. You know what I mean? And any sport really, because even with me, I'm looking at it from a combat sports perspective or a striking sports perspective, because a lot of the stuff that you do is rotational,
for sure,
and lateral force, and I love that stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Where did you decide to be like, all right, I want to put this stuff out? Because I don't see a lot of like weightlifting with you though.
I do a lot. I mean, I just don't think that's the thing too. I don't think people want to see me lift weights.
Gotcha.
Right? So I love deadlifting. I love bench pressing. I love doing all that. And I just noticed that you look at the insights and it's like that doesn't get views for me. So like everything I usually post is a sequence that I've done with an athlete. I don't always pull my camera out. Just film people.
That's another thing. Like I never really see you with a lot of the athletes, so that means that you're actually coaching.
I don't, because a lot of them I'm just like, I know you're here with me, just like enjoying being here, and then if anything I'm just like, hey, can we just like do this every once in a while? Because I feel like people like, and it's an engagement thing too, like people like seeing me train on my page, and it's just like it's just like I know what's going to get engagement and what's not, and it's just like, all right, well here's me doing a 375 reverse lunge with the fucking safety bar, and I'm just like, this is way more impressive than me jumping, and it gets like 100 likes or 100 views. I'm like, what?
It's
what's
funny
wrong
how it
here?
works, right? You think that one thing's gonna blow, and you're like, no, that didn't work. And then you go, damn, I didn't think that was gonna go.
But also it's just like, sometimes I like to show off and just show people that I am actually strong. Because they're like, oh, you lift weights?
True, because deceptively strong. Say that, right?
For sure.
It's the baseball thing. Right?
The base pops. Same with the base back in the day.
Pops.
The basement strength.
That's it. So anything else that you want to talk about here?
I'm open to anything.
So, all right. I want to take it back a little bit, because it seems to me like your dad, your pops, was like an instrumental part of your career, your life in general. What are some of the things, the positive lessons that he's instilled in you?
I mean, he's always a hardworking guy. The gym we had, it was like a life lesson for me. It was like dusty, dirty, and I get people hit me up all the time, and they're just like, so there's another facility that I'll train out of sometimes, and it's like kind of the same vibe. And it reminds me of being in that older facility, and I had somebody, I posted a couple videos there in my story, and people were like, oh, I thought you only trained at nice gyms. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's funny, because I remember walking to the facility that my dad had. We moved it from the basement to another basement, like a couple blocks down, and like me and my buddy would have to like clean the cockroaches up first before we could even use it. And we had like this big sink there too, and it was like, he's like, make sure after you use it, you wipe the sink down so there's no water drops anywhere. I was like, why are we doing this? Like, it's just like, at the end of the day, you're like, this is discipline. You look back at it, right? If you can take care of this facility, where there's like, it's just you in there. Like, why would anybody care that much? Well, this is what they have, right? Something that might not mean a lot to other people, it means a ton to somebody. Like, that's my dad's, like his life of what he's put together. Collecting this equipment, something that can bring him peace and like have him be happy for the time he's down there, right? So me respecting that space is kind of how I've gone into my life in my career of like going into other gyms, like you having me in here. Like if we train after this, I'm cleaning this shit up. I'm not leaving anything out. Like even where I'm at now, like I'm cleaning that shit up. Nothing gets left out. I make sure of it, and it's a respect thing.
For sure.
But I just remember being in those basements when it was freezing in the winter, when it was like 1,000 degrees in the summer, and the craziest thing, he would be like, all right, we had the rotational fans, and they're just like the old school, like little mini fans.
Oh yeah.
And
I remember them.
he goes, just get some ice, put it in a tray, and have the fan blowing on. You'll be like air conditioned.
Wow, that's amazing. That actually is not a bad idea.
It's not, but at the end, like
like
yo,
that.
Pops, you're nuts.
I think we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Save some money.
Yeah, right. But like you learn so much about yourself just like in those situations, looking back, and it's like, man, I'm in this basement, it's dusty, it's dirty, and the weights are rusted, and I was like, that was some of the most fun I've ever had training in my life.
Yeah,
and I was like,
you learn a lot about yourself too.
Exactly. Like if you can do this, you walk there, didn't have a license at the time, so I'm walking there in the snow, in the heat, and you're just like, you're dedicated. And even during the times where I was like, didn't know where I was going in my life or like anything, that gym always found peace for me. So this was always like the direction I was meant to be in. And like, I've cared like so much about other people's development. I've kind of lost sight on my own development.
That's
which has been crazy.
It's important because you said this, you said it at the Q&A, and like you do have to take a step back and reflect a lot of times, because you can get caught up. And I'm not saying like stare at the scoreboard type shit, but you know, for me too as well, I had to take a step back and really like see exactly what's going on so that it can keep me going forward. You see what I'm saying? Because if you're always on a constant grind and you're just continuing to push the envelope, you can get burnt out. And I hate to say that because it's some people take it in a negative way.
Right.
But it's true. Like you can definitely cause issues down the line and can stop your progress. So, you know, I would say give yourself some flowers here and there. But on top of that, never settle. Right. And I'll say this from experience, watching you, seeing the stuff. I wouldn't have you out here, you know, and doing all this stuff if I didn't believe in your credibility, I didn't believe in what you do, and I didn't believe in your passion. You have all of that, and you're gonna keep moving forward with it.
I appreciate that.
No doubt.
And I've felt that, like being burnt out, like just getting to that point, and I'm just like, man, I need to do something. And taking the step back and just like sitting on the beach here, like the last couple of days before I've come into the gym, just like, dude, like not people from where I'm from get the opportunity to go to Ukraine.
Yeah, man.
Like, I'm just like, probably no one. Probably, if I'm being honest, you just take a step back and it's like, shit, I've done some really cool things. I've had some really cool opportunities. I work with some of the best athletes in the world in their sport, and I'm just, I need to take more time for myself and develop that. But I'm happy you said that. I appreciate that.
Man. Yeah, just keep it moving, bro. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna do great things, and it's gonna continue on.
Appreciate it.
You're young still. You know, there's a lot.
I'm older than you.
I know, bro, but listen, I got a lot of kids, man. Like a lot. Not even my own kids, but I also have kids that I work with, so I feel like a father. Where can they find you on Instagram? All of that good stuff.
You guys can find me on Instagram. It's Nooch_13, NOOCH_13. Stop asking me to change it. I will never change it. It's who I am.
Who's asking you to change it, bro?
I get people all the time.
For real?
Me. Yeah, like, oh, make it more something fitness, like Nooch Fitness. I'm like, fuck yourself.
That's
no.
Doesn't make any sense. Let them
it's
do
who
what
I
they
am.
do.
It's
Yeah,
like,
no, for sure.
Yeah, it's the childhood nickname. I can't change it.
Man, YouTube's gonna come out. We're gonna do a podcast. We're gonna get it all done.
I'm gonna step into the YouTube world soon, and we'll do more on there. And
for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I got the little TikTok thing going.
Maybe do a program together.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I think it'd be a dope thing.
We should do a seminar together.
Well, that's coming too. We can do that. There's a lot of things, but you have to stay tuned. Thanks again, my brother. Appreciate you.
My man.
All right, we're gonna get some working out, and then
I need that.
You guys also make sure that you check out the 2 YouTube videos over on my main channel. We did some power workouts, some core rotational stuff, all the stuff that he does, put me through it, so on and so forth. Thanks again for watching. See you again next time. Peace.